How much money does the gun lobby spend to own Congress? The popular narrative is that the lack of legislative support for various gun control schemes is due to aggressive lobbying. The story goes that blood money from the National Rifle Association and other gun lobby efforts, along with the firearm industry, has a stranglehold on elected officials who are just pining to do the right thing, but are being drowned out by all the cash. How much money is actually spent by the NRA on lobbying? And how does this compare to lobbying efforts from elsewhere? To look into this, we need data from a neutral and reliable source. Statista is a German online platform specializing in data gathering and visualization in German, English, Spanish, and French. Their data partners include the Federal Statistical Office, the Allensbach Institute for Public Opinion Research, the OECD, and the German Institute for Economic Research. Their other partners include the Financial Times and Fortune. Financial Times Germany named them among the winners of their startup competition called Enable to Start. Statista defines lobbying as when a company or organization tries to influence government leaders to create legislation that will benefit the lobbyist in some way. Tracking lobbying expenditures is one of the many points of data this company maintains. In the United States, the largest, by far, lobby effort comes from pharmaceuticals and health products. Second is electronics manufacturing and equipment, and third is insurance. The second and third lobby efforts still do not spend as much combined as pharmaceutical companies do by themselves. This data tracking of lobby expenditure, of course, includes the National Rifle Association. They felt compelled to add this to the bottom of that chart. The NRA and their lobbying, one of the most famous lobbying organizations in the United States, spends an average of $1.23 million per year. In their absolute highest expenditure years, it was right around $5 million. Statista did not include the NRA in these lobby expenditure chart, which was tracking the top spenders in the United States, because if they had, the chart would have looked like this. Having tracked lobbying expenditures by multiple organizations, to include the NRA, for many decades, the NRA at its absolute peak topped out at $5.12 million in lobbying expenditures for one single year. That was in 2017. For comparison, we're going to look at Oracle Corporation. They're an American multinational computer technology company known primarily for their proprietary multi-model database management system. Oracle has outspent the NRA on lobbying every year. Now, this is not the information technology industry as a whole, just Oracle by itself. Oracle spends between $4.8 and $12.4 million per year on their lobbying efforts. They generally outspend the NRA by about 3 to 4 times as much. Let's use a more local example. One news outlet in Alabama decried all of the, quote, NRA money pouring into Alabama, unquote. They included this chart of Alabama elected officials to document all of the NRA blood money pouring into their state. Per this news outlet's own chart, these amounts were the total NRA contributions for these elected officials from 1998 to 2016. Not the amount per year, the total for that entire period. So, for example, Robert Adderholt had the largest amount of contributions, which at $43,749, that averaged $2,430 per year. He was the largest recipient of NRA contributions for the entire state of Alabama. For perspective, these were the total campaign donations for just the 2015 to 2016 campaign series. Representative Robert Aderholt took in over $1.4 million. If we take that into account of the NRA's average contribution, that is a total of 0.169% of his total. If we were going to be very generous and assume that all of those NRA contributions from 1998 to 2016 were all contributed to Representative Aderholt's one single campaign from 2015 to 2016, that would still be a grand total of 3% of all contributions. Now, I'm not a lobbyist, but I'm going to guess that you probably need to spend more than 3% or 0.169% of an elected official's total campaign contributions if you're going to have meaningful leverage over their voting sufficient enough to turn their vote. What might real dollars in effective lobbying look like?
Dr. Fatima Cody Stanford, an obesity doctor at Mass General Hospital, an associate professor at Harvard Medical School, says common beliefs about obesity are all wrong.
It's a brain disease.
It is?
It's a brain disease. The number one cause of obesity is genetics. That means if you are born to parents that have obesity, you have a 50 to 85% likelihood of having the disease yourself, even with optimal diet, exercise, sleep management, stress management.
Novo Nordisk, the maker of the obesity drug Ozempic, has spent $10 million per year just to lobby this one drug, with their primary effort in pushing for the passage of the proposed Treat and Reduce Obesity Act, which would emphasize regular prescription by doctors to patients for Ozempic. This does not count the $100 million Novo Nordisk has spent in advertising this drug to the general public. Dr. Stanford has been appointed to the current Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee and has declared that, quote, obesity cannot be treated with exercise and good diet, unquote. And she is pushing for more pharmaceutical interventions. The main push for this is the drug Ozempic, made by Novo Nordisk. Prior to this appointment, Dr. Stanford had been a paid consultant for Novo Nordisk. So the idea that the NRA or the gun lobby is buying off people to vote a certain way is patently false. The numbers just don't line up. So what does have an effect? Well, it turns out there are a number of studies on this, and the first I'll quote is from the United States Department of Justice. They put together a report called Effect of the NRA as a Citizens Special Interest Group Concerned with the Criminal Justice System. The conclusion of this report was that the lobbying effectiveness of the NRA is attributed to a membership committed to the goals of the association, which translates into communications with legislators indicating opposition to more restrictive gun regulations. They found that NRA members and gun owners in general are personally motivated to contact their elected representatives about a given issue, not because raw money is flowing through it. Also, there is a concentration of gun owners to grant good support for pro-gun legislation and to be resistant to anti-gun legislation. Plus, gun owners and the NRA at large tend to obtain pretty good amount of law enforcement support. Many in law enforcement, and particularly sheriffs, generally support gun ownership. Switching from government reporting to academia, Journal of Political Sciences and Public Affairs published a report entitled The Impact of the NRA on the American Policy. The abstract stated that the purpose of this research was to examine to what extent the National Rifle Association has on the federal and state policies within the United States. They found in this report that the NRA's mission is to promote public safety, train members of law enforcement, adopt and encourage shooting sports, and to promote hunter safety. Their research concluded that the primary source of their power, particularly within politics, is from the membership itself. Quoting from that report, the NRA's members are engaged in the political arena and feel passionate about their gun rights. So that's what the data says. That's what academics and the United States government have reported. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.